What's up guys, this is Pink Across. I hear people use the word game plan a lot in the context of competitive Pokemon, and in general I don't believe you should have a game plan, at least probably not in the way you think. So I'm going to go through a battle and explain to you guys how I think through my games and how I have what I like to call a dynamic game plan, which is hardly a game plan at all. But before we get into it, this is the team I will be using in the replay where I'll be explaining how I think through my games. We've got a Stealth Rock Skarmory here, Spikes Gliscor, Boots Gambit, Boots Dragapult, and Boots Galarian Slowking, with my knockoff user for this hazard stack being this Thundurus Therian. So let's take a look at the replay. Team preview is a really important spot to analyze your opponent's team, and you're going to want to identify what I call crucial factors. Now what this always entails is noting what your opponent has that threatens you, what you have that threatens your opponent, and which Pokemon on both sides cannot afford to be chipped. For example, in this matchup, I knew I needed to keep my Skarmory healthy for the Kingambit and Ursaluna. So that's the first thing you want to identify, crucial factors. And those are some examples. There are a lot of things that could be crucial. If you have a hazard stack team and you notice your opponent doesn't have any removal, that's obviously something you're really going to want to take note of. If you have a Choice Specs Dragapult and your opponent doesn't have a Ghost Resist, that's also something you want to take note of. Generally, just things that are going to have a big impact on the game, you should be aware of right away, and you should note that at team preview. You also, of course, want to think about your lead, what's probably going to have a good lead matchup, but other than that, you don't want to think too hard about how you're going to win the game. Just identify your crucial factors, think about your lead, and get into it. Now, in this example, I knew I needed to keep Skarmory healthy, as I said, and one other thing I noticed was that I actually had forgotten to run minimum speed King, meaning I outsped Iron Hands, Ursaluna, and Hatterene outside of Trick Room, but I would be slower than them with Trick Room up. To start off, I lead with Galarian Slowking, expecting Hatterene. I thought he would stay in, so I just go for the Sludge Bomb, but the Hoopa comes in. Unfortunately, I end up going into Thundurus, expecting it to live, but after the Trick Room comes out, a Hyperspace Fury one-shots me, and the Hoopa pivots out. But I do note that it is Eject Pack and no longer has an item. This is a great opportunity to bring my Skarmory in, as I said, it's going to be able to Iron Defense up on this, and its health is really crucial. So I get that nice Iron Defense off, Fire Punch is not going to be killing, not even close, and I get to Roost and get my Skarmory back up to full health. My opponent gets the Hatterene in, and I want to keep my Skarmory at full, so I Roost again. Now, note at this point in the game, I don't seem to be playing to any particular end. Now here I go for a Chilly Reception because I don't want the Hoopa to take advantage of me again, and I decide this is a good time to get in my Gliscor. This is because I know the Magician from Hoopa is going to give this Hoopa a Toxic Orb, which could be really nice and will give me some good chip damage. Now note, I'm just trying to get the advantage here. The entire reason I made that play with Gliscor was not because I have some plan to win that involves Hoopa getting knocked out. I just thought it would be good, and it would help the game progress in a way that I wanted to happen. Now I switched to Kingambit here because I'm worried about Hyperspace Fury or a potential Psychic, and I didn't want to stay in with Gliscor. Sure enough, the Dark move comes out, and this turn I know the Hoopa's either going to switch out or go for a fighting move, so Gliscor is a safe switch. All I'm trying to do is maintain an advantage, and each turn I'm reassessing the field to see if anything crucial that I identified at Team Preview has changed. At the moment, it hasn't. A lot of the threatening Pokemon on my opponent's team are still much intact, and overall nothing significant has changed. So I do get a Spike Up as the Hoopa goes down, and Kingambit goes for a Kowtow Cleave. Wanting to keep my Skarmory healthy, I Roost. Hatterene comes in here, I go back into Galarian Slowking, which is now a lot less risky of a play, since I'm no longer worried about that Hoopa-U coming in and punishing me big time. I figure it's safe to go for a Sludge Bomb here, since I can always go into Skarmory on the Kingambit, and sure enough, the Kingambit comes in. And then a major wrench gets thrown in my plans here. I go for an Iron Defense, and the Kingambit pulls out the devastating Terra Ghost. Now, I was expecting the Kingambit to get greedy and go for the maximum boost, so I decided to get up a Stealth Rock, but I was a bit greedy myself going for that, and the Kingambit is just going to decide to take out the Skarmory, getting that low kick here in this turn, causing me to get very chipped. Now, you may not know at this point how I'm going to try to win this game. I certainly did not know how I was going to win this game. I thought at one point that maybe due to the large amount of physical attackers, maybe an Iron Defense Skarmory sweep would happen. That clearly wasn't the win path. Thunderous Therian fainted, so that's not really an angle. Hazard Stack is a possibility, and Gliscor is looking pretty threatening, so maybe if I have a chance to get that healed up, even though it's pretty low at the moment, that's a possibility. So I don't really know what's going to happen, but I just decide that Dragapult is probably my best sack. I wanted to keep Skarmory intact just in case it could come back, and still the Rocky Helmet chip was good. Dragapult didn't seem very good against my opponent's team. Now here, I forced the Iron Hands to burn the Quark Drive boost, which is really nice. And I can sack my Skarmory off for a little bit more chip. Now this is the point at which I had a plan in mind. So far, I'd just been playing to get an advantage. Get the Hoopa-U killed, get my hazards up, put myself in a better spot than I was at last turn, but this is when I started to actually have a game plan. And this is what happens when you just worry about identifying those crucial factors, trying not to let things get chipped that need to stay healthy, and thinking through each turn. Usually a win route will emerge, and in here, the Iron Hands chipped and the Kingambit turned into a Ghost type suddenly really opened up my Kingambit to win the game, and I noticed that. So, after the Skarmory gets chipped, I go into my Gliscor, protect, just in case to get a little bit of health off, but it is indeed Ice Punch, and I just get off the Earthquake. Had a very small chance to kill, but probably wasn't going to happen. Now at this point, I can go into Kingambit and just threaten to pick off this Iron Hands. Now my opponent goes into his Kingambit, and I just finish him off with a Sucker Punch. So at this point, I have a very good shot to win. Now something else I want to note at this point, against this Cresselia, my plan here is going to be to Swords Dance and likely Lunar Dance into what I expect will be Iron Hands. But I noted earlier in the game that my Galarian Slowking had enough speed to outspeed all three of these Pokemon due to me actually forgetting to put in the minimum speed, meaning whatever ends up getting chipped here, I can finish off the game with Sludge Bomb and Surf. I Terra Fire and go for another Swords Dance. The Iron Hands goes for a Drain Punch, and here I'm able to hit it with an Iron Head, and the Wild Charge does not kill, putting me in a spot where I end up just sweeping with Kingambit. So through identifying those crucial factors I talked about, like trying to keep my Skarmory healthy, knowing which Pokemon weren't good against my opponent, like Dragapult and Thunderous Therian, I ended up putting myself into a position to win. Now, had I started this game by telling to myself, I'm going to kill Hatterene and then Hazard Stack, or I'm going to win this with Iron Defense Skarmory, or even if I planned initially to sweep with Kingambit, I probably would have lost in all three cases. The best way to play is what I call having a dynamic game plan. Identify crucial factors early on, note when significant factors change, but otherwise just focus on gaining an advantage turn by turn, and eventually a win path will reveal itself. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please subscribe, like, and leave a comment if you did, and I'll see you guys next time.